Okay. So, Heather, I want to give you a bit more time, more than 10 minutes, so you can speak on the industry.
Okay.
And then I'm going to give Lebu another 5 minutes from the 10 minutes.
Okay.
And then I'm going to give Punki another 5 minutes. So she'll have 20 minutes to speak a bit more around the renewable energy project. Is that okay? Punki is on mute, yeah? Okay, so we'll just manage it. We'll just manage it like that.
Okay.
Rita's gonna join us. She's got 15 minutes already, so that's fine.
In terms of questions, we do questions right at the end, is that right?
Some of the questions are going to come at the bottom of your screen. You have a Q&A section.
Okay.
You will see that as you present, the people will be posting Q&As.
Okay.
And if it's relevant to you, as Tawela has said, please feel free to proceed to answer.
Okay.
And then at the end, we'll do a more specific Q&A.
Okay. All right. So the sort of live Q&A as I'm going. Right.
Correct.
Cool. I've got to work out how to do my presentation with speaker notes and follow the presentation as it's seen at the same time, which could be interesting.
It's going to be fine.
Okay. I'm opening up to the public now.
That is fine. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who's joining us today from different parts of the world. We are excited to host you today, our monthly webinar, exploring entrepreneurial opportunities in the energy and power sector. My name is Betha Dlamini. I am the founding president of African Women in Energy and Power. Today we have a lineup of very exciting speakers for you that will be speaking on opportunities that exist in the electricity sector. We've got speakers that will speak from a utility perspective, that will speak from an industry association perspective, and we have Siemens Africa that will give insights into channel partnering in the electricity sector. We also are very excited to host for the first time on our webinars Womenomics Africa that will be talking about opportunities that exist and support that exist for women that want to trade on the continent. Welcome, take your notes and enjoy. Tawela, if I can ask you to start sharing my presentation, please. First, I would like to introduce African Women in Energy and Power for those of you who are on our webinar for the first time. African Women in Energy and Power is a nonprofit company established to support and accelerate the participation of women in the electricity sector or the energy and power sector. We believe that as we avail opportunities for women to be providers of products, services, solutions, and systems in or across the electricity value chain of generation, transmission, and distribution, we will be able to resolve the energy poverty that the continent is currently suffering. We also believe that as more and more households have access to clean, affordable energy, they will be able to improve the dignity of their livelihoods. And therefore, we collaborate with multiple stakeholders in the industry to unveil hidden opportunities in the energy and power sector so that women, youth, and people living with disabilities can organize themselves to participate. We have established 11 chapters in 11 countries on the continent. We have so far reached over 800 women through our webinars, and our various initiatives have reached over 5,000 women since we started in 2018. We're also very excited that we have received the SADC Protocol on Climate Change Award in recognizing our contribution to gender equity in the region. And so when you follow our website, you will see that we have a number of activities that you can benefit from. In total, we are targeting 22 countries that are highlighted on the image that you see on your screen. And we wish to reach women from all walks of life who are interested to be entrepreneurs in the energy and power sector. Our approach is based on collaborating with multiple organizations. As such, we are endorsed by key players in the energy sector. We are endorsed by the Southern African Power Pool, which gives us access to 17 electricity utilities in the Southern African region. We are endorsed by Eskom, currently the largest electricity utility on the continent and number 7 in the world. We're endorsed by She Energy Africa. We are endorsed by engineering industry bodies, CESA and EXA, Women in Oil and Energy South Africa. We create in Zambia, and we've got a strategic collaborative relationship with the Africa Leadership Group. Our approach really is very basic. We say that first, you must understand the construct of value chains in the electricity sector. You must understand how the generation value chain is organized, who are the players, who are the technology partners, and how you can be a provider of products, services, and solutions. You must understand the construct of the transmission value chain. You must understand the construct of the distribution value chain. With this understanding, we believe that you're able to choose to participate in the electricity sector with better insights into opportunities that exist in that particular sector. You're also able to, please go back to the previous slide, Tawela. You're also able to choose areas of interest, areas that resonate with your business interest as an entrepreneur to participate in. You're able to identify an ecosystem of support where you access technology, where you access finance, where you access networks, where you access market. And we believe in this way you'll be able to organize yourself to participate more competitively in the sector. The content of our webinars is thus organized as follows. We talk to access to market. With access to market, we invite electricity utilities to speak of their strategic focus in the electricity sector, their programs, their procurement policies, and their gender mainstreaming policies, so that you have an understanding on how you can bid for opportunities in the market. We invite OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, who speak on technology that is sought after by the industry. They speak of the channel partner program, enterprise development programs, and their supply development program. This way you can organize yourself, approach them proactively, and see if you can be enrolled as one of their beneficiaries. We invite finance houses who speak on how they finance energy projects and how they assess projects for financing. This way you're able to align yourself with the right financing instrument, and you can increase your chances of accessing finance. We speak to industry associations. As I have said, we've got Womenomics and we've got the South African Independent Power Producer Association today, who speak on activities that they implement in the sector to support the participation of women and the participation of industry in specific segments of the value chain. We also invite entrepreneurs who give testimonies on how they succeeded in the energy and power sector, so that you can glean insights into business acumen that is nuanced for the energy and power sector. And you can empower yourself to be competitive and to take advantage of emerging opportunities. We work in solidarity with multiple stakeholders. And as you have seen with our track record, we are consistently bringing the right players, captains of the electricity sector of the continent, to speak on opportunities and where you can secure support. We do this because we want to support the growth of entrepreneurs, women-owned companies, women-led companies, youth-owned companies, and companies that are established by people living with disabilities. We want to see them grow from a micro state along the growth trajectory to become high-impact national cooperations and multinational cooperations. That is our vision, that we can have women-owned companies that trade across countries on the continent. Next. This picture that I wanted to share shows women working at Mfuleni local municipality in South Africa, working on a substation that was off. So you can see they're not wearing protective gear. But this picture is very important because it shows that women are capable of working in highly technical engineering environments, and therefore you should not be intimidated by the sector. You should be curious about the sector and seek to participate. With that introduction, I will invite our first speaker, a woman that I have a lot of respect for, Ms. Pinky Majola. We have worked together for many years advancing the participation of women in the electricity sector. We have established the Women Electricity arm for the Association of Municipal Electricity Utilities. She is a senior engineer at Ekurhuleni Municipal Metro, and she will be speaking about projects and programs within Ekurhuleni municipality. I encourage you to take notes and to follow up after her presentation. Ms. Majola, up to you.
Okay, good afternoon, delegates. Thank you, Chairperson. Thanks a lot, delegates that have managed to attend. My name is Pinky Majola, as the program director is told. I'm a senior engineer in the city of Ekurhuleni. What I will be taking you through is the city of Ekurhuleni itself, the projects within the city, and the opportunities for women. Next slide, please. I will just give you a background of the city of Ekurhuleni. I think people will ask themselves, what does it mean? City of Ekurhuleni means the place of peace. This is a Tonga word. It's a symbolic of the diversity of the new city and its vision of an equitable and progressive community. So city of Ekurhuleni, it's made out of 9, we call them distribution business units. So you will see it's one of the big municipalities. We've got about 9 distribution units within the city itself. We've got Tembisa, we've got Kempton Park, Ethatwa, we've got Brakan, Guatemala, Poslo, Alberton, Tsakani, Tuduza, Nigel, Katlehong, and Pinoni. So these are all the areas that form part of the city of Ekurhuleni. Next slide, please. Let me take you through the city of Ekurhuleni sustainable energy strategy. The city has identified that renewable energy mix as an alternative solution to cap the escalating cost of electricity to its residents. Solar energy was one of the most suitable, specifically for the residential customers. So solar PV was the best available technology to invest in terms of renewable energy to augment the current status of the increasing demand. So the target that was set and that was approved in 2017 on the climate change strategy is that we need to, by 2030, to be sitting at 25% of the energy efficiency by 2030. So we are now, we are looking at that in terms of having a mixed both renewable energy and energy efficiency by 2030. One of the KPIs that the city have started put in key performance indicators, the PV solar lighting units to be installed in informal settlements. We have identified the informal settlements that we are busy in terms of installing these PV solar lights. We started looking at the installation capacity and alternative renewable power. I think if you have heard on the news, we have concluded the purchase agreements, the power purchase agreements. As the city, we are installing voltaic solar panels on council buildings, on the rooftop, and the top lights on some of our parks. We have started putting energy efficiency. This is one of the solar rooftop at Alberton, which is one of our distribution units within the city of Ekurhuleni. The green initiative on the electricity infrastructure, we have started in terms of retrofitting the old street light lamps with energy efficient light emitting diodes, the LEDs. We have started with retrofitting the old traffic lights with LED fittings. These are the projects that are happening, ladies, if you can note. We have started again in terms of installation of energy efficient water and sewage pumps together with energy efficient motor pumps, starting methods such as variable speed drive. We have started in terms of retrofitting all the old pumps, the public pools, the pumps of the public pools with energy efficient types of pumps, the installation of solar water heating for approved indigent households. We are looking again in terms of installation of solar home light system at informal settlements. So these are all the green initiatives that are happening within the city. The initiatives to supplement the current power supply. This is what is in place currently in the city. We have Energy Department has built and operating the following renewable energy mini power plants within the city. We've got Leopan, which has a capacity of 200 kilowatts. It's a solar ground mounted. We've got Sima and Jack landfill, which is 1,000 kilowatts. It's a landfill gas methane to electricity, which is in Jamestown. Next slide, please. I will go through the legislative framework that is guiding us as the Energy Department and as the city. We have the Constitution of South Africa of 1996, Section 217. We are being guided by the Preferential Procurement Policy Framework, Act 5 of 2000. We are again being governed by the Broad-Based Empowerment Act, Act 53 of 2003, which is linked to the corresponding codes of practice that stipulates our preferential point system. And we are being governed by the Municipal Finance Management Act, 56 of 2003, Section 110-11, and the City of Ekurhuleni Supply Chain Procurement Policy. I will dwell a bit on the City of Ekurhuleni Supply Chain Management Policy. You will see on the policy itself, we've got paragraph 3.3.2 of the City of Ekurhuleni which states that the city may decide to apply a pre-qualifying criteria for preferential procurement to advance a subcontractor, small enterprises controlled by a designated group. So the question is, when we talk about a designated group, so we're saying if the city applies this preferential pre-qualifying criteria as contemplated in paragraph 3.3.2, a tender shall be advertised with a specific tendering condition that only one or more of the following tenderers may respond. This is the EME or QSE, which is at least controlled by Black people who are women. And paragraph 3.5.4, the annual targets of these shall be set for EMM and each department for at least the following groups: the BEE enterprise with equitable gender participation, small BEE enterprise with equitable gender participation, micro enterprise with equitable gender participation. These are Black-owned enterprises. So with this, what I'm saying, ladies, is the supply, what we are saying from this, we are saying we do have the supply chain policy for Ekurhuleni has indicated that we are advancing women. There are tenders that looks at a specific group. So when you look at the tendering on the tender website, please make note, there will be that clause that says that this tender is open for a specific group. So it's important, ladies, that as we go through the tender, the website, we look at these, because we have been advertising tenders that looks at a specific group, because we know that we are targeting a specific group of people, meaning the previously disadvantaged and women. So I urge you, please read the fine print. The current tenders that the city is busy with, we do make provision for a specific group. I will take you through where to find this information. What if you are a new company? Maybe the first question will be, how do I, as a women-owned company, be part of this projects that are happening within the city? We have the central supplier database, which is very critical that you register your company with the central supplier database. Within the city of Ekurhuleni, again, we have our own vendor database. You need to apply with the city of Ekurhuleni vendor database. Please ensure your tax compliance is in order. The city will not give any work for companies or service providers that their tax matters are not in order. So it's very, very critical. Submission of your current declaration interest form, that is very, very critical. We need, as you submit, it's important that you declare any interest. Next slide, please. I have indicated on the slides where to find the city of Ekurhuleni supply chain policy. I've included the link there. Within the city, we've got different types of tenders. We've got what we call an open tender. An open tender is a tender that will be advertised for 30 days on the website. The second type of tender is the one that we call under 200,000. This type of tender is advertised on the board. It's for 7 days, or it's called a quotation. All these tenders are on the Ekurhuleni website. The information I'm showing you now is under the Ekurhuleni website. It is available for everyone to go through and interrogate the information on the website. I am going to stop there and take questions and answers from ladies that, from the participants that would like to know more information from what I have just shared today. I'm gonna open to the questions and hand back to the program director.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for your contribution. We've got 2 questions already from the delegates. One question that I will start with is a little easier to tackle. It talks to track record. And the question is, does the municipality consider SMMEs that do not have a track record? And I just want to amplify the question a little bit. We do have a challenge in the industry that there are many capable engineers and capable entrepreneurs that are interested to participate in the electricity sector and have the competence to add value in the electricity sector, but do not have the track record that typically would be required in bid documents. So that just with that background, if you can just share with us how the municipality handles SMMEs that perhaps technically qualify for a project, but do not have the track record.
Thank you for the question. We have, as I have explained, we've got different types of tenders. We have those that are under 200. So the tenders differ. The work that we have available will differ. So it will depend on the type of project. We do have quite a few projects that do not need a track record. We have those that will require a track record. So that shouldn't despair you and say there is no work. We have different types of projects. We have quotation projects. We have projects that are about 5 million projects that will not require an intense track record. And another thing I would encourage for ladies is to partner with other ladies with track record, because that assists you in that process that you start building your own track record as well. But I must say there are different types of work available. We do have work that will not require track record.
Thank you very much. The next question, and I guess it's a question for many people that want to do business with the Metro. The question is, does the Metro consider SMMEs or companies that do not originate from its jurisdiction?
Thanks for the question. I think this question comes up all the time. Yes, we do, definitely. We have current service providers that are not within their jurisdiction. We have service providers from Bloemfontein that are even outside of the city, that belong to City Power, that belong to Tshwane. But we do accept service providers across the country. We do not. We don't say that if you are not within the city, therefore you will not get a job. What is very critical that we do enforce is for your rates and taxes to be up to date, irrespective of the municipality that you are paying your rates and taxes from. That is the one prerequisite that we require. But in terms of which municipality you are from, we are not specific on that one.
That is very encouraging. It also means that companies that come from other municipalities that have a value proposition that matches what is being required by the Metropolitan are welcome to bid for those opportunities as they emerge. As she has emphasized, it's important to ensure that your rates are up to date. This is slightly a difficult question, I think, in my opinion. Ms. Punki Majola, will the CEO be willing to engage with an SME developer to be an off-taker for renewable energy from a 10 megawatt solar PV plant in Johannesburg? Very specific. There's an SME developer with a 10 megawatt solar photovoltaic plant in Joburg, and they want to know if the head of the utility would be amenable to engage them directly.
Thank you. We do have different divisional heads within the city. What I would suggest the customer does on our website, we do have email addresses of the different divisional heads within the city. We do have a divisional head for renewable energy who is, which you will find the details on the website, but I will share them later on with you, Betha, as well. But the details are on the website to say who is the divisional head for renewable energy. I suggest you pop an email, make an appointment, explain to the divisional head what your projects that you are interested in, and probably engage from there, and then see where if your engagements are, what will the city look into in terms of the engagement. But in terms of the divisional head details, they are on the website. If you go into the City of Akron website under Energy Department, we did state their phone numbers and their email addresses. I hope this answers your question.
Thank you kindly. Just, I'm going to invite Ms. Rita Nkutlu to prepare herself for her presentation. Unfortunately, we apologize that we will not have Nelson Mandela Bay speak today. Our speaker was unfortunately admitted in hospital and they could not find a replacement on time. But do watch out for our next webinar. I am certain that we will have Nelson Mandela Bay present then. Ms. Rita Nkutlu is the, I'm actually very excited to have her on board. She's the Executive Director, Business Excellence at Siemens Africa. And she will be talking to us about channel partnering from Siemens' perspective. For us, it's very important to have OEMs such as multinationals like Siemens participate at our webinars, because one of the ways to gain entry into the market is to be associated with an established original equipment manufacturers that owns IP that can train you to on-trade their technology. In this way, especially in areas that are sought after by utilities in the market. This applies for our existing energy system. It applies for new opportunities that will come as a result of the just energy transition. It applies for many areas, including decentralization, digitization of energy systems. So we invite women entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at large to cast their net wide in terms of your business interests so that you have a higher chance of securing opportunities. Ms. Rita Nkutlu, up to you now.
Thank you so much, Bertha. So yeah, I'm going to be speaking about Siemens, the product portfolio that we have, and then more importantly, also go into a bit of a deep dive on what our channel management and supplier development initiatives look like, and the framework within which we do it. So our values are very, very straightforward. As a company, we're responsible in terms of environmental health, make sure that we comply with the necessary legislations that are not only in South Africa, but in Africa as such. And that is to be responsible for the environment that we are operating in. We do this with engineering excellence. And then, of course, we are innovative in the research and development that we have. Siemens overall has been in existence for 170 years. And what I like about the foundation of Siemens specifically is it's all about society, making a difference in society and ensuring that even though a company such as Siemens may be profitable, it is done so also with a service to society in the way we practice our technology as well as employment practices. So what does Siemens look like as an organization? You'll see here the main company being Siemens in green. And then we have Siemens Healthineers, which is a publicly listed subsidiary of Siemens, as well as Siemens Energy, which is also a listed associate company. So the difference there is that with Siemens Healthineers, we have a majority shareholding. With Energy, we have a minority shareholding. But you'll see already within the framework of the solutions that we provide, we're in essence covering not only healthcare systems and the population growth and chronic diseases, but also reliable energy, increasing demand, looking after the increasing demand of energy, such as solutions in the renewable space, as we are speaking today, but then also contributing to distributed energy systems. Microgrids very much are in focus, either coming from PV or from wind-related sources. So when we look then at the Siemens digital portfolio itself, you'll see here immediately as an engineering company, we really invest in research and development, and in particular, bringing it perhaps home to South Africa. Very interested, personally, I'm very interested, my EXCO is very interested in innovative companies and specifically Black women-owned companies, because this is the environment that we are in, and we have seen that dealing with Black women-owned companies brings with it a responsibility that one sees only really in Black women-headed companies. So I'm not going to go through the entire portfolio that we have, but suffice it to say that we do look at digital industries, so industries in the manufacturing environment, smart infrastructure, which speaks to the likes of e-charging, the PV portfolio, as well as the wind solution. Mobility, of course, is also a very important factor in our space globally, maybe not so much in South Africa, but it's going to get in that direction, and that is with specific view of futuristic e-charging, which is very much embedded in Europe, but we are seeing it also starting to come through in South Africa with the likes of BMW, with Ford, as well as then with Audi, who already are putting manufacturing plants together here in South Africa for e-charging to take place. Siemens Adventa is basically a consulting company that we have that is for financial services that is globally available. We have a small unit in South Africa as well for financial services. Portfolio companies, there, let me stop just very quickly. Portfolio companies is a company such as the mining industry. It's a business unit that we have within Siemens that specifically focuses on mining. And we very recently had a mining Indaba in which, again, Siemens participated from an enterprise and supplier development perspective, EMEs and QSEs, in the context of broad black economic empowerment. And then, of course, health EMEAs with the healthcare system. But all of this is underpinned by service and governance, making sure that we are correct in how we are applying the products and services within the countries that we serve. Then, when you have a look at the digital industry, specifically on the left-hand side, very software focused. So what you see here is an image of a vehicle, which has been designed in the software space first, commissioned, basically factory accepted, and then only does the production begin, which of course has for itself a solution in terms of return on investment, that the risk is mitigated as far as production and then FATs being done. Factories and Siemens automation, I think Siemens is very well known for its automation capabilities, and then of course the microgrid, and what you see there is an example of the Siemens e-charger. Then also very recent, in addition to the Siemens portfolio, is smart buildings. So what you see there as an example is an image of the Comfy app that we have installed and commissioned specifically here in Midrand. And what that does, particularly during COVID times, is allow for us as Siemens to see which individuals are coming to the to our main head office. Where are they located? Which seats have they reserved? And making sure that the building as a whole is not being utilized where there is no person in that particular building. So that, of course, then speaks to our carbon footprint. We very much are part of the compact for carbon neutral innovation, and that we do as a matter of course. Then going into Siemens South Africa specifically. So here we are shaping the business in terms of digitalization, what you've already seen. There we're talking about software solution, automation as well, and then electrification. Now let me pause at electrification very quickly. We as Siemens have been responsible, and we are currently maintaining various wind farms as well as solar plants that are dotted throughout South Africa, notably in the coastal regions, as well as then in the northwest. So the contribution that we have seen so far has unfortunately always been male dominated, and I would personally like to see, together with my exco, a lot more contribution coming through from Black women-owned enterprises, such as the congregation that we have today. Next slide. Then, if we cast our eye further than just South Africa, you'll see that we have representative offices in Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia, and Ghana. And then also manufacturing, and I think that is quite important, is that we have manufacturing here in Isando, we have manufacturing in Aksa Park, and then also we have also a little bit of a manufacturing plant in North Riding with Siemens Mobility. Then going on to our own pledge in terms of supporting Africa, or sub-Saharan Africa as it were. We all know this slide already, but what I think is important is that from a Siemens perspective, we very much comply with the BEE codes, one of them being employment opportunities, but then also skills development in the levels that we would see for EMEs, QSEs, as well as Black women-owned enterprises. Then broad-based economic empowerment is what underpins everything that we do, literally in Siemens, always with the focus of ensuring that we are equitably distributing the economic empowerment that we require in South Africa in order to move Black women-owned companies forward. Also, what I think is quite important is that within Siemens, we also have an ownership by our own employees who have shares in the company in Siemens Pty Limited, and therefore they support with ensuring that the company remains profitable. So now to enterprise development. The anchor of enterprise development for us is in our supply chain. What we have seen is that we require suppliers who are trustworthy, suppliers who have turnaround times that we can account for and that we can include in our own tenders towards our own customers, which is, of course, very important in terms of preventative maintenance services. Here we are exclusively looking at only Black-owned enterprises specifically, as well as then making sure that we do these things with the Occupational Health and Safety Act in mind in everything that we do. And then, of course, ensuring that we have a customer satisfaction, now our own customers, which is supported by suppliers who contribute positively into our supply chain. If we go to the next slide, please. So how do we do this? What we have seen is that it is important, first of all, to have a longer relationship with enterprises, with Black women-owned enterprises, and any Black enterprises for that matter. And that relationship, we consciously have made it a reality in assuring that we will support, in this case, Black women-owned enterprises between 2 and 3 years. And the reason for that is you'll see the steps, and I'm not going to go into all that detail, but fundamentally, Siemens is ISO certified for 9000, which is the management framework, for 45001, which is the environmental framework, as well as for 14000, which 45001, which is the certification in occupational health and safety, as well as then 14,000, which is the environmental framework. So these certificates alone take 3 years to really be able to live. And we have seen with our enterprise development initiatives, as well as our supplier development initiatives, that we must anchor ourselves, not only suppliers, to OEMs, but we must also give a commitment to the suppliers to make sure that they are able to succeed in their areas of competence. So how do we do this? Is with a maturity gap analysis. What you see, the yellow area is where we view our best placed suppliers should be in, and then take a measure together with the supplier, with the enterprise, in the case of an enterprise that is external to Siemens, to ensure that we understand where the gaps are and how we can support in getting the gaps closed. What you will see here is that cost is not such a high factor for us than, for instance, infrastructure and tools, or even than leadership and management. Why? Because we believe that when there is a capable leader at the helm of a business, then costs, the reliability, quality, all falls in place. But it starts really and truly with a CEO, with a management team that buys into the notion of quality at the highest level, as well as buys into skills development of its own employees. The next slide, please. So in terms of mapping then an enterprise, we always look to the BEE, the triple BEE framework. And here you see the potential of an SMME or Black women-owned enterprise as an example. And we make an objective decision around the potential of an individual company. I quite like the question that came through earlier on. Must an entrepreneur have a track record? Not necessarily, because the potential is what we as Siemens look at from an enterprise. What is, however, required from our side is that the enterprise is registered. And that is basically, Siemens in a nutshell, and the enterprise development initiative that we have also in a nutshell. And I would be open to questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. A very informative presentation indeed. What I like about your last comments is potential is important. I also like the fact that you look at the person who sits at the helm of the enterprise and you focus on their capability to make a decision to partner. There's a question that says, is there still an opportunity to be part of the Siemens Enterprise Development Program?
As a matter of fact, there is. So our financial year just started on the 1st of October, and applications are currently open. Yeah, so through you, Bertha, with the Channel Partner Development Program, that's where we would really like to participate in this particular instance.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. We have another question that says, what is Siemens' long-term energy partnership with Black women EPCs? EPCs developing or piloting microgrids development in South Africa?
We are absolutely open to it. Why do I say this? Is that we as an organization, when I look, and I'm responsible for diversity at Siemens, when I look into our procurement portfolio, I really am missing Black women-owned enterprises. Never mind even looking for EPCs as yet. So within the auspices of AWEaP project that we all know about, we are still looking, and we would be very, very open to partnering with EPCs as well.
Fantastic. Just to let the delegates know that we are working on a channel partner program in partnership with a number of OEMs. Siemens is one of the companies that we will be working with, and therefore look out for the launch of that program so that you can participate. There is a question that says, what mechanisms did you deploy to get top management buy-in? This is from one of our associates, Jayashri Peshad, and I wanted to understand from Jayashri, in getting management buy-in for which part of the business you are, maybe clarify that question a little bit, Jayashri. And then we've got a question from Dave. Are Siemens seeing any interest in cogeneration? This is from Dave at SAIPA.
So on cogeneration, for Siemens Pty Limited, the company that we remain, not so much, because that is no longer our focus. However, Siemens Energy, and I am happy to provide that the contact for that, my counterpart in Siemens Energy, contact detail to take that discussion forward as well.
Fantastic. Jayeshri, we'll come back to your question. Thank you so much, Ms. Ngutlu, for your informative presentation. The presentation will be loaded on our website for future reference. Our next speaker is Ms. Heather Griffith, who will be speaking from the South African Independent Power Producer Association. We're very delighted to have this association participate on our platform. AWEaP is a non-competitive organization. We are an integrator of the electricity sector, and therefore you will see in many of our webinars we bring in associations that are pursuing similar goals to the ones that we're pursuing. Heather, please take over.
Thank you so much, Bertha. I'm very excited to be able to present to you all today. I've been personally a CYPA member for, I was trying to work it out the other day, I think it must be about 6 years now. And I've been on the management committee for, I think it's probably three years. And it's been such a rewarding experience in terms of what CYPA has given to me and what I've also been able to give to the industry. Just a bit of background, in my professional life, I'm a generator specialist. I work for Siemens and I work on a range of generators, supporting my clients from hydro to CSP, as well as the old school steam-driven type of generators. Cypress Mission is, so the goals of CYPA are to promote the collective interests of IPPs in South Africa, to assist with public policy formation and implementation, and to serve as a platform for information dissemination to our members. We seek to proactively engage with legislators, government officials, planners, and regulators as part of our initiatives to achieve energy security in South as well as Southern Africa. How do we achieve this? So we represent independent power producers in various platforms at national, provincial, and municipal levels. We inform our members of latest policy, legislative, and regulatory developments. We lobby key decision makers on appropriate policies to develop a sustainable independent power production market. We assist independent power production sector via working groups, and I'll go into this in quite a lot of detail just now, seminars and workshops to define clear positions on political, technical, and economic issues. We promote all power technologies irrespective of type, and I think that's one of the things that CYPA is very unique with and very good at. We are completely technology agnostic. We have members who are coal IPPs, solar, wind, a lot of co-generators, which is an IPP space that a lot of people don't actually even know exists, as well as companies and individuals involved in supporting industry, so technology providers, legal advisors, consultants. So our working groups are gas, wheeling, grid code advisory, small scale and better generation, and the just energy transition. And I'm going to go into detail on each of these. So sorry, I've lost my speaker note. Just give me 1 second. So this is where the bulk of our work happens in CYPA. We break into individual working groups, and each working group is led by a management committee member. I personally lead the small scale and better generation work group. All work groups are open to all CYPA members. You can join one work group, you can join them all. The gas work group. This work group serves the gas generation industry. It's a relatively small group at present, but I think as South Africa looks for some alternatives for base load generation to coal, I think gas is going to become increasingly important, and I'm really glad that CYPA's got a work group to be on the ground when this industry does take off. Wheeling. Wheeling is the mechanism, both in real and in sort of legislative and agreement terms, for getting power from a generator on one part of the grid to a consumer, related or otherwise, on another part of the grid. Wheeling has historically proven to be very cumbersome in South Africa, particularly if you're wheeling power from one municipality to another municipality, and even more so if you're using Eskom in the middle. It's fraught with challenges, but it's absolutely key to being able to unlock the power of independent power production. So CYPA has done some really great work recently, supported by GIZ, to help unblock some of the obstacles to effective wheeling. It is a work in progress, And we've recently started a wheeling help desk to provide support to our members. If you're interested in getting support on wheeling, please visit our website. We've got some guides to the wheeling support desk there. The Grid Code Advisory Group, CYPA is very fortunate to have a seat on the Grid Code Advisory Committee. And we attend meetings and provide input from an IPP perspective, which is really important when changes are being proposed that may suit a big, large utility, but possibly not either the technology of an IPP or the size of an IPP. And so we make sure that those voices are heard in those forums. So the small scale embedded generation, this is my baby, and it was relatively quiet until quite recently when we gave significant input into the proposed amendments to Schedule 2 of the ERA. The original amendment had proposed a threshold of 10 megawatts, and we believed that this was a little bit on the low side. And together with BUSA, who we have a very strong working relationship with BUSA, we engaged with the department and we surveyed our membership. I sent out a little Google Forms survey and found that there were real projects ready to be launched significantly above the 10 megawatts level. We sort of saw it was around 50 megawatts to 80 megawatts, and they were just waiting for licenses, and those licenses weren't coming. So we submitted this information to the department through our engagement with BUSA. So when the president announced the 100 megawatt threshold raise, we were very, very excited, and that news has been very welcomed by CYPA. So through our relationship with BUSA, we're also now engaging with NERSA to assist in making the actual registration process as simple and efficient as possible. So I hope to have some good news on that front one of these days. And our newest group is the Just Energy Transition. South Africa, as we go forward, we need to make sure our transition from a predominantly coal-based generation economy to a greener and sustainable generation economy is just and fair. We need to make sure that the job losses are kept to a minimum, if at all. So this group is very new, it's in its infancy, but we've done some good work so far. And if you're interested, we've got some really nice resources on our website. Okay, next slide, please. So CYPA doesn't exist in an island. We've got some very good links with other associations. I've spoken to BUSA. BUSA's been really, really great, especially on the Schedule 2 amendment issues and issues around licensing and that sort of thing. We have a relationship with AMEU. We attend their AGMs and have access to the associated people and resources. GIZ have been absolutely instrumental in helping with our wheeling work, and we are very grateful for their support. The SASA is the South African Sugar Association, and they are one of the big, the sugar industry's got a lot of co-generation. So they are one of our co-generating members. And obviously we also have got links with the various renewables groups, so SARIC and SAWEA. Opportunities to work with IPPs in South Africa. I think the new changes to Schedule 2 are really going to open up the IPP space, and I'm really excited to be part of it. The recent changes in the regulatory environments affect lots of different types of businesses. There's feasibility studies, generation technology, legal advising, and the supply of associated equipment. This means that consultancies, as well as legal entities, there's a huge amount. I mean, if you were talking about the wheeling earlier, a lot of the wheeling problems are handled by the legal brains. That's where a lot of that is freed up, as well as the providers of the actual equipment. And obviously there are also the more formal government procurement programs. So how do you join CYPA? Well, our website is on the slide there, and you can apply either as an individual or as a corporate member. We have both individual and corporate members. Thank you very much. Over to questions, Bertha.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you so much for your presentation. Very informative, and it opens quite a wide net where entrepreneurs can choose to participate, number one, and also choose to associate with SAIPA and receive the right support. We've got two questions for you. And the one question I think you have partly answered: how stringent are the requirements for developers, SMMEs in particular, to sign wheeling agreements with Eskom?
Sure. So I'm actually not the brain for wheeling. I know there are starting to be some good examples of wheeling. Wheeling is still quite in the early days. Possibly, I would say maybe if you could pop that, both, and maybe forward that specific one either to me, or if you have a look at the SAIPA website, that wheeling help desk. Andrew Carr is the lead for the wheeling group, and he will be able to. And Brian has said.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give Brian an opportunity to contribute to this answer, Heather. Brian, if you can, sure. If Brian, if you can unmute and just contribute to the conversation, that would be great. Tawela, is Brian able to give an answer?
Yes.
Okay, I think I've found an unmute.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Thank you.
Ah, thanks, Heather. Don't tell anyone I'm an engineer when I struggle with the basics. Bertha, thank you very much to you, to Heather, to the whole team. Lady from Ekurhuleni, really interesting webinar. The quick answer to the wheeling one, because there's also a very long answer, but I think between Andrew, Heather, and myself, we can certainly entertain it through the SAIPA help desk. In short, the Eskom wheeling is very doable. There's a requirement on the generator side to amend the connection agreement, either at distribution level or at transmission level. And there's a requirement on the customer side to amend the electricity supply agreement. These two agreements can fairly easily be amended, and Eskom are really getting more experience in actually doing it. And there's a very well laid out spreadsheet of the costs on each side. As Heather's pointed out, though, once you go wheeling into a municipality, it gets much more complicated. What I do foresee happening, and the National Business Initiative is somebody else that I've worked with extensively to actually do some wheeling, and I would be happy to even do a presentation at a future webinar. Because the key thing, I think, is to allow for generators that are Eskom connected to be able to wheel through Eskom and into a any Munich, where you've got customers, because those medium-sized companies need to be able to buy alternative energy, which at the moment is much easier if you're a very big customer connected directly to Eskom as well. And I'm going to be doing some future work with the municipalities. City of Joburg, Cape Town, through guys like Paul Vermeer and Brian Jones, are working very hard to make it possible, but it really is cutting edge, while the Eskom process is actually well defined. And Shirley Salvoldi is the costing lady in Eskom who's developed this spreadsheet that gives you the actual numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. There we have an invitation to the next webinar where we can look at wheeling agreements specifically. We've got a question that was not Olo is asking if there are affiliation fees for SAIPA.
Yes, there are. They are dependent on whether you join as an individual or as a company, and they are staggered according to size of company or individual. They are available on our website. So if you go and have a look there, those fees are there.
And also the last question before we get to Womenomics. The last question was around assistance for IPPs. which I believe you have answered by saying that there's a help desk that IPPs can access through your website. The assistance that is inquired here is assistance for licensing.
So a lot depends on what the query is. So if it's a small IPP, then I think we're hoping that registration is going to become the order of the day, which we're still in the process of getting to the bottom of with NERSA. So what I would encourage there, so in terms of if you need someone to apply for the license on your behalf, I have a couple of professional people I can definitely recommend for you. And if it's a case of how to get involved in registration, I would suggest joining Cypress and joining my work group. I'm hoping to be able to do a lot of support and on that going forward, and walking people through that once we know what that registration process is going to look like with NERSA, which I'm hoping by the end of the year we'll have a good idea of what that will look like. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Heather. Thank you so much, Brian, for joining and supporting our webinar. We'll take you up on the invitation for a webinar focusing on willing agreements. Our next speaker is Ms. Lebu Biko, who is the co-founder of Womenomics Africa, an organization set up to assist women trading across the continent. I think you will enjoy her presentation. Ms. Lebu, please take over.
Thank you, Bertha. I hope everybody can hear me clearly. Good afternoon, everybody from a sunny Johannesburg. I know we have people from different parts of the continent on this webinar, different parts of the country. This is usually my favorite part of the year, and I'm so excited to be with you today. I'm going to take you through a fairly quick and short presentation around Womenomics and the work that we do in support of women participating in key economies across the continent, but with a big focus on intra-Africa trade. And when my business partner and I start speaking about this, we get so excited. So I give Bertha already permission to play the Grammy Award-winning music if I begin to go over time. But we founded Womenomics many years ago as a concept. And it was during the time that the Africa Rising narrative was very prevalent in our conversations, in the media, around this part of the world being developing very fast. And I think at the time, Time magazine had put on its front cover, I think it was around 2011 or 2012, when it had put on its front cover this Africa Rising narrative, and there were statistics that are being shared around 6 of the 10 fastest growing economies were on the continent. And with my business partner being very steeped in women's development and having worked in that place in terms of enterprise development and volunteered in that place, we were very alive to the fact that in all these conversations around Africa Rising, around the growth, around the development, around the opportunities, that women and women's participation was missing. So women were missing in this narrative. And we thought it's very important that as this continent rises, that we don't leave women behind. And you can see here that this is the president of the African Development Bank. I think on your slide, his name, shame, is spelled incorrectly, but he's Akwini Adesina. And I love how he is such an advocate of women's development, but mostly so because he understands, as many people have in the past, that unless you actually make sure that half of your population is participating effectively in the economy, you're not going to get anything right. And he speaks about this a lot. And I think he was speaking about it also very passionately at the recent Generation Equality Forum that was hosted in Paris in July as part of the next phase of Beijing, around the fact that you have to support women. And for us, this supporting of women is Womenomics. And Womenomics, as you can hear from the word, is the economics of women. And it's really around how do we make sure that women are not actually just participating in economic development, but actually are at the center of driving economic development. So we don't want to be made to tag along, but we actually want to say we want women to actually be at the center. And when we visualize it, and with my business partner, we talk about economic highways. And I'm sure many of you have seen the visual that's on screen right now, which shows the connection points between the different countries on the continent. And we visualized this, and we came up and we said, imagine if this was an economic highway. And an economic highway for us is really around where money is flowing. So where is money flowing? And if you can see those lines, you can imagine that as different industries, as different markets, and literally as money is flowing through the continent, and you're able to track and monitor what that money is. And in our vision, it says this economic highway where money is flowing and making sure that people have money in the pocket. Imagine if that was driven and designed by women, and that it's not just that women are an afterthought, but actually they are part of designing where that growth needs to be and how it's going to be channeled in that space. And that economic highway allows a connection of what we call economic nodes, which are countries and industries that traverse geopolitical boundaries and are able to unlock this magnitude of a market and economy that will be unlocked when Africa does more business with itself. When we started our thinking around Womenomics, it was pre the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And so when we started working, there was a lot of evangelizing that needed to be held, particularly, I think, from a South African perspective, where you're really trying to get people to understand the importance of thinking beyond their own borders in terms of opportunities. But with the AFCTA now coming into play, it's made that context much easier. And so when you've got $3 trillion that is being unlocked as GDP size, and that is anticipated to grow to $6 trillion US dollars in 2030, our vision is that if women are half of the population, they really should be able to contribute to and to be able to receive half of that. So it's a bold vision. We are clear that we're probably not going to see it in our lifetime, but we know that the work that we're doing is legacy building, and hopefully our children and our children's children will be able to live in a world where women are actually not just half by population, but also half in terms of economic value. So what is Womenomics Africa? Womenomics Africa is an NPC. It was founded, registered officially in 2019, but as a concept has been going on, I think, probably since about 2016. And the work that we do is really around advocating. We convene what we call practical conversations. I think often when we get together as women, we are almost chastised for coming together and having conversations. But conversations, if they're curated correctly, as this one is today, they are catalytic. They are able to unlock something. So we advocate, we convene practical conversations through workshops and conferences. We research and we gear ourselves to be able to build capacity with our partners to make sure that we're able to introduce women to opportunities that are there in terms of trading on the continent, and also to support them to be able to participate more effectively in those opportunities as outlined by the free trade area as it is implemented across the continent. So as I said, our vision is to realize a space where women are able to actually participate we talk about dollars in the pocket, and not just as laborers, but actually able to participate in a way that they're contributing to and able to receive half of the GDP that is realized on the continent. Our initial focus areas are on agriculture, and agriculture particularly because you cannot talk about growth on the continent and not talk about agriculture, as it is an industry that is set to grow up to $1 trillion US dollars by 2030, and energy sectors, because as you know, on the continent, it's the infrastructure that's going to be important to make sure that we're able to trade effectively, and energy becomes a very important component of that infrastructure in terms of those flows. Why we do what we do, and the things that we try and respond to in terms of supporting women are these that we've highlighted here, that we see that are barriers that really hinder women to be able to participate more meaningfully in these economic highways and in trade. And as we know, it's usually related to access. So a lot of access are issues that we know for entrepreneurs generally, but for women, I think they become more exacerbated in these areas. So access to information and knowledge and education around what to do, where to do it, and how to tap into it. Limited access to finance. I think there've been many reports that have been shared around the financing gap that exists. I know, for instance, now that the IDC, together with the African Development Bank, as part of the AFAWA program, is on the prowl looking for women entrepreneurs and women businesses to be able to fund in order to close this funding gap, because it is so huge. Women tend to be concentrated in those sectors that are of a lower skilled. And therefore, when we think often as women, we don't think around businesses that are absolutely able to scale. For many women, because they are juggling so many things, we tend to think a bit smaller in terms of businesses that we can manage ourselves, and not necessarily those businesses that can grow. Limited access to digital technology. I think they talk very much around this digital gender divide, which is huge. There's a huge gap. There's a huge gap globally. There's a huge gap in sub-Saharan Africa. So even though in sub-Saharan Africa, our rate of growth in terms of internet access and digitization is one of the fastest in the world, but we are also this, in terms of the region, the one region we're second, almost second last in terms of that gap, right, next to South Asia. I think there's a report that's been done that says that I think only 27% or 41% of women have access to the internet, and only about 27% of those actually can afford to use it. So it's really quite a big issue, and I think it's even more exacerbated now because of the COVID pandemic that has forced many of us, whether we like it or not, to become more digital savvy, and in many instances to become our own tech departments and having to support ourselves. And then, of course, in terms of some of the challenges that we know we have to contend with, and that we hope that the AFCTA will also help to address, is around the trading discrimination that women face at the borders themselves. Women tend to be concentrated in informal trade, and the numbers of that, of the total informal numbers of informal trade, women make up about 70% of that. And unfortunately, they're the most vulnerable. They are susceptible to harassment, etc., and confiscation of goods, etc., because of the nature of women. And so it really does impact on that. And they tend to be employed in those sectors that suffer high trade costs. So sectors that have lower skills, where women tend to be concentrated in, so such as the textile industries, some of the food industries, some of the footwear industries, that when you're exporting tend to carry the highest trade costs. We know that there are opportunities which excite us as we think about how do we begin to support women to participate in those economic highways. So the growing role of servicification, as they call it, so the services sector, and services is one area that cuts across every single sector. So even infrastructure, even energy, there's a really big growth around the globe and around the continent in terms of the opportunities that are presented in that area. The rise of global value chains, and I think even regional value chains that we've seen, particularly as a result of COVID, where as value chains were disrupted, as access to different markets, there's big disruptions. We've seen that there's been a growth in those spaces, and I think women, in some of the studies that were shared around COVID, I think it was the Bill and Melinda Gates research that was talking about, they were the most impacted in terms of COVID, mostly because in terms of the kind of spaces that they were employed in, and those kind of industries suffered the most, the services industries, and also the types of businesses that we're in. And many women found themselves outside of resilient value chains. And so as global businesses, as international businesses want to do more business with the continent, as the continent realizes the importance of building regional value chains that support the growth of the continent, supported by the AFCTA, we think there'll be a lot of growth there. And of course, technology, which I don't really have to say too much about, but we've seen how that is playing a much more important role in terms of business, and in terms of business, particularly beyond borders. The Womenomics Africa premise is on three things area in terms of the reason why we exist. We exist because we know that Africa has great opportunities. They talk about the fact that Africa, your time is now. I think many of us have that T-shirt. It is great and exciting that the continent has also realized that it is a formidable economic bloc, and through the AFCTA, we are seeing that. And of course, you cannot do this with half your population not participating. And our response to this, using the AFCTA as a catalyst, is that we focus on three things. We focus on, one, connecting women to information and insights around the opportunities that exist for them to do trade in their particular industry on the continent. We then focus on connecting them. I'll go to the third piece, which is then connecting them to a supporting ecosystem. So we believe that we're not an or, we're an and. And so it is the ecosystem that exists around Womenomics, but also the ecosystem that exists for the entrepreneurs that's going to support them to be able to grow. So we focus very much in terms of our ecosystem on getting partners that support access to markets, because we know that's a big issue around making sure where can you tap into those opportunities, and access to funding, because we also know that's a big gap, particularly with women. So we say to women, right, here's your business, here's the opportunities for you. There's opportunities in Mozambique, for instance, from an energy perspective, that you can go and tap into. Here is an ecosystem partner that really wants to do business with you. Here's the funding that can work with. But we've also found that, particularly with some of our funding partners, is that many women are not at that level that is ready to scale and ready to accept some of these some of the support that is available. And so the third connecting piece that we do is to connect these women to capacity and to skills to allow them to grow in a way that they can actually grow their businesses beyond one country. And so together with our ecosystem partners, we work with them to be able to provide this to all our entrepreneurs. One of the things that we've done over the last couple of months, which we're very excited about, is the launch of the Womenomics Africa virtual campus. For us, when we started our thinking and our business many years ago, we knew that digital would play a really big role, particularly as you talk about doing business on the continent. I think for many people, there's a very quick but to say, but infrastructure, but ease of doing stuff, etc. And we thought, well, we know that technology, while it's not going to solve everything, will definitely be a very key enabler in making sure that we're able to build those connections between the women themselves and build them between other ecosystem partners in different countries. And so we, end of June, beginning of July, we launched what we call a virtual campus. It is essentially trying to do three things. The one is that it is trying to make sure that we have a platform that really facilitates engagement and connection, not one-way chatting or one-way speaking, so that people can actually engage and get to know each other. So the nature of the platform forces you, even as you're coming onto the platform, to share as much information about yourself as possible so that people can actually engage and want to do business with you. That's the first thing. The second, it is a home for where we together with our ecosystem partners provide training, skills, boot camps, any information sharing that is required to support women onto the platform. And then the third thing, it really is around saying, how do we help to highlight and elevate and create a space that allows women to showcase their businesses. So on this platform, there's a virtual exhibition, which exists both in 3D and in 2D web-based version, which really becomes a 24/7 environment that women entrepreneurs can come on board, can be on this platform, and can almost put themselves out there to be seen and engaged with the ecosystem partners that we have on board. We're very fortunate since launching to have UN Women South Africa come on board as a partner on the platform, and we were there to support their execution of their generation equality events in East and Southern Africa, leading up to the Paris event and after the Paris event. And on the campus, we have about 2,000, a community of about 2,000 individuals and businesses that we continue to grow as we move. And it becomes a way for us to kind of optimize the platform and see how best we can make sure that technology can actually help to support women entrepreneurs to grow either locally in the environment, but for us, most importantly, to support intra-Africa trade. Next slide, please. So who have we worked with and who do we continue to work with? As they say in African culture, it takes a village. It always does, because I think for me, particularly working in women's development, because we're trying to undo centuries of where women have been left behind, it really doesn't make sense for us to go at it alone, because then it is siloed and the effort, I think, becomes a bit more diluted, because we're all trying to do either the same thing or doing bits and pieces of something that we can do better. So we've worked with partners in the past and partners that we continue to work with. So for instance, the Gauteng Department of Economic Development were one of the first people that we worked with to be able to provide boot camps that we did in 2019, and we continue to do, to really we talk about evangelizing, right? To really support women and really get them to understand the opportunities that exist on the continent. When I spoke about economic highways, we know that money moves on those highways up and down, but actually where the money's at is where the source of the money is and where it's going to. And so we always talk about these economic nodes and this idea that at each of those nodes, you need to be having conversations with women, with ecosystem partners around the importance of supporting women and for women themselves to think about their businesses beyond one country, even as they start. So the Gauteng Department of Economic Development did that. UN Women was a partner of ours in terms of some of the initiatives we did in the past, but as I said, recently on the virtual campus, the likes of Solidaridad, who are focused on agriculture and agricultural development in Southern Africa. So those are our partners that we lean on as we think about the agriculture space. The DTI is a key partner for us because we have an MOU with them, and with them, what we're able to do is to understand the South Africa outwards, a strategy on the continent in terms of what the priority markets are, what the priority industries are, and what the reciprocal business opportunities can be, so that when we work with women and say, for your particular industry, here are the key markets, we're going with the South African government backing. And you don't really want to get to a space where on paper, a particular country looks particularly interesting or is very attractive, but from a diplomatic point of view, you're going to have a country battle first before you can have a business battle. So the DTI is very instrumental for us, and we work with them to make sure that we're kind of following behind and saying, if this is the South African strategy on the continent, this is where women can participate. The likes of IDF from a funding perspective, they work with the AFDB, particularly in terms of making sure that they're providing facilities and funding, particularly directed to women. They are very passionate about women's funding. And so a big chunk of their portfolio is actually just focused on women. And then of course, the likes of AWEaP as we have here today, because as I said, we're not an or, we're an and. We have no desire to build another women's association, because I think there are many of those. And so I don't know that we need another one of those, but what we do need is to work together to be able to provide different value propositions for each of ourselves and say, how do we support each other? So that's why it's exciting to be here and with the same of We Connect. The next slide. So as we continue to build, and as we try and also make sure that we support our women to access different ecosystem partners, we continue to grow. And so it's important that we work with organizations that are doing business with women or want to do business with women, because that's important from a value chain perspective, and in supporting women in terms of enterprise development. Development organizations are very important. The women in business themselves, the policymakers, as I said, we do a lot of advocacy. One of the tools that we are currently in the process of developing and building is actually what we're calling a Womenomics Africa Index, which is really about measuring, tracking, and monitoring women's participation in trade on the continent. So as we begin to track and monitor, we can talk to those that are developing the policies and creating an enabling environment to say, we're not moving, or we are moving, and here are the challenges, and this is what we have to do. So we are working with different partners to make sure that in chorus, we can begin to shift what the needle looks like. So we invite you along to come on the journey. I'm on the last slide. We invite you along to come on the journey with us. We know that it's going to take the village. It's going to take very many more people to participate, to make sure that we shift the needle, to make sure that our children live in a different environment that we do now. And if you want to engage with us, if you want to participate in any of the things that we do, if you go to the next slide, you're welcome to go onto our website, which is www.womenomics.net, or send us an email. If you go in there and subscribe to receive some of the updates, you'll be able to participate in some of our initiatives. The one initiative that's coming up in the next month is on the AFCTA series. So we have developed a series that really is unpacking the AFCTA for women entrepreneurs, particularly in terms of what it means, but most importantly, what opportunities does it open up for different parts of the economy. So thank you very much, Bertha.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. I'm always absolutely inspired by the work that you do on the continent. Thank you so much. Just quickly on the questions that we have, I want to go back to the question that Jayeshri asked that was directed to Ms. Nkutlu. Her specific questions was almost operational. It spoke to what mechanisms do you deploy in your environment to ensure that you have your leadership's buy-in in your initiatives, in the initiatives that you lead? So I think it talks also from a woman manager, woman leader perspective. In your environment, how do you ensure buy-in?
Okay, so and you're right, Bertha. First of all, it takes the will and the intent of the leadership, such as myself, to drive this forward. And together with my ExCo, and there are 3 women represented out of 4 ExCo members, we are very much driving this in the area, in particular in procurement. So the framework for us in procurement is very much the BEE codes. We have several customers. The BEE codes are the foundation of everything that we do, because we are in South Africa and we're complying with the law. And so what we do and every investment that we make is against that backdrop. Yeah. When we engage with our customers, the first thing that we are always asked is, hey, what is your BEE level? So our BEE level is a level 2. Next, in November, we'll become a BEE level 1. It is informed by us being compliant to what we do, and that is the framework that we follow, and very much driven by the leadership in consultation and making sure that management brings it down to the operational level at all levels of the organization.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. You spoke very eloquently around the conviction of leaders to do the right thing. And I always say that one has to do the right thing, feel and do the right thing. And you've also then substantiated that stance with the policies that guide your activities. Thank you very much for your contribution. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got some questions on the chat. I wanted to find out if there are any questions directed to Ms. Biko that speaks to Womenomics and the great work that they are doing to support women trade on the continent. They have shared their contact details and their website, and all presentations that were delivered today are going to be loaded on our website by Monday or even earlier. So look out for the presentations. Please follow through, go back to our YouTube channel, listen to the webinar, and go back to the areas that sparked your interest, and follow through, contact our speakers, reach out to us if you need more information. With those comments, we've come to the close of our webinar, and I've got a question before. I just want to make sure. Womenomics, a problem is compilation of business plan for renewable energy projects. All right, so Notlolo Ndobeni says that the challenge in the market is compilation of business plans for renewable energy projects. Indeed, this particular area we're going to address in detail in our next webinar. Our speaker, who could not make it today, would have spoken at length around building an energy project and what financiers are looking for and how you can position yourself to get the requisite support. So please look out for that next webinar. As I was concluding, thank you very much for staying for 90 minutes on our webinar. We enjoy disseminating credible market information, and that's the reason we were formed, to integrate stakeholders in the sector and to ensure that entrepreneurs have access to credible market information, credible networks, and information that enable you to organize yourselves to be competitive in the sector. The time is now. Their opportunities abound. Follow through, own your entrepreneurship journey, and we will see you at our next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bertha.
Thank you, Heather. Thank
Cool.
you, Sis Lebu.
you.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you so much. Thank you, Punki.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi.